Hey guys, this is Carrie from Artstitution, and today I am going to teach you step by step how to paint this really cute, whimsical dragon sleeping on a crescent moon. So what you're going to need is a large paintbrush, a flat paintbrush, a medium flat paintbrush, and a small round paintbrush. If you don't have these, that's fine. You could use whatever you feel comfortable using, but these are the three that I usually use. So if you got a color box, you'll have these three. If you go get your own brushes, use whatever you want. Make sure to have your egg cartons with your colors in it. I like to reuse my egg cartons after I finish a carton of eggs. And I use paper plate. So you have a nice paper plate. I always give myself a couple so I don't run out. And then you have your water. I like to use an old mason jar. And of course, paper towels. I am using a 16 by 20 inch stretched canvas, but you do not have to use this. You don't even have to use a rectangle canvas. If you use a different shape, just remember to change the composition because, I'm going to be kind of filling up this longer space. So if you have a square, you kind of just got to, you're gonna have less space on either side, so you'll have to change the composition up a little bit. So what I'm going to do first is we're gonna paint the whole background, and I have some cool colors going on. I have some blues, some purples, and some really dark blues. You don't have to, this isn't about getting to the same colors as I'm getting. It's just getting to colors that you like. I mean, if you don't want blues in the background, you can do any colors. You can do pinks, anything you want. I'm gonna do blues, so I'm gonna do 3 scoops of blue onto my plate. I'm gonna add a little bit of black. Now remember, I'm gonna just dip my dirty paintbrush in the edge of the black so it doesn't dirty up my color. I'm gonna do that with everything. If you wanna wash your brush after each dip, you can. I know a lot of people need to do that. I am impatient, so I don't. So you're just gonna add black until it gets to be like a nice navy blue. Then we're gonna add some white just to make it a little creamy. I'm gonna add a little bit more black now that it's lightened up a bit. So I have a nice creamy navy blue here. So I'm not even gonna wash my brush. I'm just gonna do 3 more scoops of blue onto my plate. Now I'm gonna do 3 scoops of red from the edge so I don't dirty up that red. The reason why I'm not going to wash my brush is because I already have blue. I have blue on my brush already, and I'm going to make purple, and there's blue in purple anyway, so you don't really need to wash it. So when you mix purple, it's going to be really, really dark, like that. So I am going to add just a little bit of white into there. Again, make it creamy, and then you'll get to see what that purple really looks like once it starts getting a little bit lighter. Add a little bit more white. Okay. So now I have these 2 colors. So now, just for fun, I'm going to add a scoop of white to a little section of my purple. Just so now I have an option of a lighter color purple if I want. And I'm going to take some white and I'm going to put it over here in the blue section. So I have a lighter color blue if I want. Alright, so I have all these colors, okay? Now I'm going to switch to my big brush and I'm going to cover the whole canvas with the paint. I would just make sure to spread it out really thin. I know it's going to be transparent, but I still want it nice and thin. Right. You can swap to your lighter blue. Just make sure you blend them nicely together. You can even go to your purple. And it's going to be really brush strokey and stuff the first time around. That's okay. I just want you to mix all the colors together. supposed to be a midnight sky. So we really want to get all those colors in there. But we also want it to be dry by the time we do a round 2. So you really want to spread it out. And save the edges for last so you can give yourself some extra drying time. You can also switch your canvas around. So don't stress about this part. This part's really relaxing because really all you're doing is just painting your canvas, just like painting a wall. You can even dip your paintbrush in the white and add it in there for some extra variation, extra contrast. Okay. So acrylic paint's very unique in the sense that it dries really quickly. It's not like oil paint that takes days and days to dry, and you can kind of keep working into it. And yeah, I used to really not like acrylic paint for that reason. I loved oils, and because I can work on the same painting, I can kind of go back to it anytime I wanted. So acrylics I felt like were really restricting. But then I started painting and doing quicker paintings with acrylic, which I learned to love. So now I love acrylic, and I actually don't even work in oils anymore. I guess it's because I'm always teaching in acrylics. All right, I'm going to actually flip this over. So it's going to be spaced, so you know, have fun with the cool colors if that's what you're choosing to use. And you don't need anything fancy to paint, honestly. You don't need more than the primary colors in black and white. You don't need to get anything fancy. I always mix on a paper plate. It's all I ever use. And all I ever use are egg cartons too. Really, really good for holding your paint and your recycling. So if you have a hair dryer, you could always use a hair dryer to make it dry quicker. I can't do that down here. I'm in my basement because I blow a fuse every time. So now I just don't do it. And I'm running out of the dark blue. No! I'm gonna have to mix some dark blue. That's fine. All right, so I'm just gonna take the time to mix some more. I know it's really hard to just stop what you're doing and mix. So I used 3 scoops of blue. I added some black to that just to darken it up. And then I added a little bit of white to that, make it creamy. It doesn't have to be the exact color that you had, absolutely not. There's lots of different colors in here. It's really nice when you add some white just to get that variation of color. So if you're using a small canvas, there's going to be less drying time too, so keep that in mind because you'll be plowing through it a lot quicker. The first round, you know, is just really covering the canvas. So you can decide really where you want all the colors to be later. I'm just kind of getting something down. So if you like sit back and you're like, I think I have too much purple, or I have not enough purple, you can always switch that, you know, you can adjust at any time. And I always like to give myself a little spot. And I always have my paint set up. So all I have to do if I'm feeling inspired is sit down and paint. So it's really nice to, if you know, plan to do this more than once, it's really nice to have a little spot in your house. I mean, it could be a little closet, it could be a little section of your room. I mean, it doesn't take up a lot of space at all. All right, now that it's all covered, now I'm gonna go back here, where it's pretty much dry, and I'm gonna do the edges. Take your time. It doesn't have to be the same color. It doesn't have to match up, because we're gonna go over the whole thing again. And nobody's gonna be looking to see if it's, you know, the edges match exactly. Sometimes when I forget to paint the edges, I'll go around with black. Which looks cool too. Missing us up here. I knew that seemed too quick. Okay. What's cool about these pre-recorded videos is that, you know, if you're going faster than me, you can speed me up, or you can slow me down, whatever you want to do. Now, we're not going to put another, or you can if you want, but I'm not going to put another coat on the edges. This will suffice. If you got fingerprints, like I did, all over the front, does not matter. I don't remember which side I guess I started at that side. So, if you remember where you started, you can put your second coat on that. So I started up here. I'm gonna turn this over, or just look at it, feel whichever spot is drier. I'm gonna start putting another coat, and then it's gonna be covering up really good. I'm gonna now concentrate on where I want the variations of color to go more. If you hold your paintbrush a little bit lighter, you won't be able to see your paintbrush strokes as much. And we're gonna, actually, after this, we're gonna mix a really dark blue. Just go around the edges. And take your time. It's never good to rush. I never do my best work when I'm rushing, with painting at least. Other things, maybe, sometimes, but I don't paint well under pressure. See, I'm doing just little sections at a time. And if at any point you want to add a different color into the whole scheme, go ahead. You can mix some, change it up. There's never a point where you can't. So the reason why I'm doing the whole background first is because I find it to be kind of a little annoying trying to have to paint around things. It's really not my favorite thing to do. So I don't want to do that to other people either. It's kind of easier if you have the freedom to kind of draw and paint fluidly. So another reason why I want you to go slower is because we are also allowing the other side to dry a little bit longer. So we're going to talk about leverage too. If you ever feel like, you can't reach something or you feel uncomfortable, you can, change your position, sit down, stand up, turn your canvas around. It's important to feel comfortable. And also, we're concentrating on the background now when really your main focus is going to be on the dragon, ultimately. So you have to go too crazy with the background. And of course, I ran out of blue again. I think I learned my lesson. Finish that off over here, and I'm going to make myself some more blue. So it's 3 scoops of blue. Blech. Actually, let's do 4 scoops, just so I don't run out. And just gradually add some black to that until it's darker. Then you're gonna add some white, just to make it creamy. Not necessarily to make it super light, just to make it creamy. Okay. Here we go. Now I'm going to put that here. painting like this is like, to me, it's very relaxing. It's almost like making a mandala, and you kind of don't really have, like, it's really limitless how you want to go, what you want to do, and you really don't have to have any rhyme or reason doing anything. So it's relaxing for me, not stressful. Although painting typically isn't very stressful for me. I know some people get super stressed when they paint, but I just say if you know, I'm not saying I don't ever get stressed. If I'm trying something and it's not working out, it could be, definitely could be stressful, but then I just walk away. I think the best thing to do in any, you know, when you're doing anything really, is to just walk away and come back later. Go chill, go for a walk, and come back. All right. I'm holding my canvas because it's like bouncing all over the place, making a lot of noise. All right, I'm going to try to fix this glare here. Well, that's just getting worse. Okay. That's a little bit better. All right, once you are happy with it and everything is covered, we are going to wash our paintbrushes. And remember that water likes to get stuck in this metal part, so you want to dry it off really, really, really good. I'm going to get all my brushes right here. All right. So before we paint any of the dragon, I want to do some speckle painting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this middle brush. Instead of painting like a million stars, we're just going to splatter. Just going to put a couple of scoops on your plate, and then I'm just going to take some water. It doesn't matter if it's dirty water. It will still look white when you splatter it, even though it might turn a different color on your plate. Okay. Now you can lay your painting down on the table if that's easier. I like to test my consistency out on, because you don't want it to drip or anything like that. If it's dripping, it just means it's a bit too watery. So you want to test it out. But I also like, how it, some of it's big and some of it's little. But I'm just gonna make my stars that way. So even if I get a blob, as long as it's not too big, I don't mind. But you can also take away the blob. Okay. Much easier than making teeny tiny little stars. And I'm very sorry to parents if there's kids doing this. You might want to just put some newspaper down. I have a tarp hanging on the wall for my splatter paint. All right, so you can go as crazy as you want with the splatter paint. So you're gonna wash that brush off, dry it off really good. Now we're gonna take, again, some blue. Just like 2 scoops is fine. And now we're gonna take some black. So now we're gonna make really dark blue, okay? Almost black, it's like midnight blue. Darker than the blue that you had. We're still going to add a tiny bit of white, just again to make it a bit creamier. And we're going to take this. You switch to the big paintbrush. Now I'm gonna go onto the edges like this, and I'm just gonna paint the edges darker, just to give it a little bit of drama. And then I want you to just dry brush it. You don't have to go near the stars or anything. You don't need a whole lot of paint on there. Just kind of dry brushing is just when you barely have any paint on the brush. So it's almost like using a blush when you're doing makeup. Okay. Just going to do the edges and kind of blend it into that blue background. Kind of gives it like a sort of like an antique-y look to it. And any part that I do that you don't want to do, you don't have to. Like if you don't like the way this looks, then definitely don't do it. Totally up to you. But what we're also doing is, again, biding our time for the middle to all dry so we can make our dragon. If you hear noises, those are my sugar gliders. They're mad at me. They always get mad at me because they don't wake up till really the middle of the night. You don't have to be particularly neat about this. Just have fun. I'm going to switch that up so I can reach. So you want to be comfortable. I was not comfortable. Again, only you know when you're done. Of course, I ran out of dark blue anyway, so I'm gonna make a little bit more, and I'm actually gonna do my edges again because I want them to match my dark blue. If you don't care about that, then skip this part. But I too like to kind of give my middle part some more time to dry, so this is another good time to do the edges. Give yourself another few minutes for the middle part to dry. There's really no rhyme or reason how I'm doing this. I'm just kind of doing it. So whatever way you feel comfortable doing the edges. Ghost painting right now. I ran out of blue and I'm trying to scoop like this imaginary paint up, hoping that I don't have to mix again, but I probably will. Unless I think I still have a whole other. Oh, I think I can salvage some paint. All right, here And here's the trick is, do you remember which side you want to be up or down? It does not matter. Okay. I've done so many paintings, and you'd think I'd get the lighting right at this point, and I don't. But that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to wash all of my brushes off. So now we have this space effect. And even if it's not super dry in the middle, it's fine. And here's the kicker is we have to draw, we're gonna draw on top of this. And trust me, I know that that's nerve-wracking because we just did all this work, but take a breath. I'm gonna have a sip of my seltzer and we're gonna get to it. All right, so what we're gonna do first is we are going to mix ourselves a gray color. Okay, it's gonna be like a bluey gray. So let's start with white. Let's give ourselves 2 scoops of white onto our plate, okay? Just add a little bit of black and a little bit of blue. So we have this kind of like bluey, blacky, gray with like bluish gray. Okay. It does not have to be the same bluish gray as I have at all. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out where we want our moon. So if you wanna switch to the tiny brush, you absolutely can. So I see that my moon's probably gonna go out that far here, and it's probably going to come about this far down. I like to give myself some guides. Then it's gonna come out this far up, okay? So it's gonna be like a big C shape. And that's what my dragon's gonna be sleeping on. And we can, you know, you're not selling your soul, so we can definitely fix it up. But this is just our kind of like trial run. And whenever I paint an object, I always tell my students, like, go smaller. You could always make it bigger. Okay. It's a little trickier making something smaller. And then we're just gonna thinly paint that in. It's okay if it's gonna pick up some of that blue in your background color, that's absolutely fine. Okay, after I have this all painted, I'm gonna show you a little trick on checking our evenness out. And this is why I always say to go a little bit smaller, because once you start adjusting things, you kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, so if you turn it a different way, like upside down, you can kind of see it from a different perspective. So you can kind of see where you're off a little bit. And not that it really matters. I mean, this is like a dragon. Like, obviously, it's not like a realistic. Not that I don't believe in dragons or anything, because I totally do. But, you know, it doesn't have to be super realistic. It's just cute. All right. This once you're happy with it, just make sure there's no like pools of paint, because we want this to be dry. Okay. We're gonna wrap our dragon around this moon. All right, so the moon's actually going to be glowing, but I made it, this is going to be I work from dark to light, so we're going to do the same with the dragon. All right, so I'm going to go in. I still have some purple left. If you don't have purple left, you can mix some more, but I'm going to take this purple that I had from the background, and I'm just going to add a little bit of black. If you have to remix purple, remix it, okay? And you want it dark, okay? Purple's red and blue, but you could do 50-50. You could do, have your dragon be on the redder side or on the bluer side. It's totally up to you. But once you mix that color, it's gonna be super dark. So I just want you to add a little bit of white. So you have that nice dark purple, but it's not like super dark, dark, dark. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna have let's start about, let's start up here because just think we're gonna have the ending of the tail right here, okay? So actually, sorry, I'm a bit scatterbrained at the moment. I'm gonna switch to my tiny little brush. Let's start here as to not confuse anybody. So what I want you to start with is we're gonna make it look like the tail's wrapping around, okay? So we're gonna come out from the top and then have a curved line like that and go a little bit past the moon shape, okay? Start simple. And we're gonna make this a bit fatter. Like that. Okay. And this is going to actually be pointy, so we're going to turn this into like an arrow shape. And then we're just going to bring the arrow in a bit. All right, so now we have the tail, the starting of the tail, but really, really try to, we've got a lot of paint going on right now, but we still want to make it, keep it very thin. So now we're going to go over here and we're going to have the same kind of a wraparound effect. So how we're going to start that is we're going to start down here on the bottom and swing our way over the top. So let's just start that way, okay? Once you have that, we're going to make it fatter. So over to the left is where it's kind of hiding behind the moon. And then it's going to come over this way. It almost looks like a crescent moon in itself, but backwards. Keep that paint. It's okay if it's mixing with your moon color, just keep it nice and thin so it's dry. I'm gonna make mine a little bit fatter. Okay. And you can go back and make, if you want to go back to your first one here and make it a little fatter, you can do that. It's totally up to you. Okay, now that You get the idea of it wrapping around. Now what we're going to do is I just want you to, well, we're going to do the body and then we're going to do the wing, okay? Now just remember, as we go, there's nothing that you can't fix, okay? So as we go down here, I'm just going to put a dark, that's kind of where the dragon's body's going to be. And the wings are going to take up a lot of this. So what I want you to do is we're going to just kind of take this shape kind of go to the middle here, just so where we know that the wing's going to kind of ultimately go. Okay? So now we have a big T looking thing. See how this and this looks like a T? Like a fancy T. Okay. And again, I'm going to run in a purple too. I'm on a roll here. All right, good thing it's very easy to fix. Just make some more. All right, so this wing is what we're going to kind of concentrate on here. So it's going to be pointy here, and then it's going to go like that. Okay? So it's going to end up over here, okay? So this is the end of the wing, so it's got to come up. So it doesn't have to be exactly like mine at all. So I'm just going to be making kind of like jumps. 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 Jumps till you have a nice pointy wing over here. And we'll make it look pointy later. For now, it doesn't really matter. I know it looks like it's kind of getting lost in the background, but that's totally fine because we're gonna highlight it and make it look awesome. So now you're just gonna, here's where I'm gonna switch to this medium brush because it'll kill me to like fill that all in with that tiny little brush. Take forever. So taking your time, but also keeping it thin. Because now we have a little bit of paint moving around, but I still want you to keep it super thin. So if you can stretch that out as far as you possibly, don't worry about it mixing with the moon. If you can just stretch that out as far as you possibly could go. I know there will be some people worrying about that moon mixing color thing. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have so many different purples in there that is not gonna make a difference. I'd rather you go thin. Oh, that's my sugar gliders. What are you doing? All right, so now we got the wing, now we're gonna have the body, okay? So don't worry about where the wing is or where, what's gonna go on in the body here. For now, what you're gonna do is we are going to come over here to, you see how you have one point here, then another point here? We're gonna kind of make a shape that looks like that. So his sleeping head's gonna be coming up here, but this is like his little shoulder, okay? So what I'm gonna have you do now is, even though we're using the same color, just keep the tiniest little space in between so you can kind of see where you made the wing, okay? Just enough for you to see it. fill that in. Again, keep it nice and thin. As long as you can see where that wing is, that's all you need. You're good to go. Oops, I mixed that. All right. So we're gonna make sure that this is nice fluid body here. All right, now we're going to work on that head. So we're gonna have a head coming up here like this, but it's gonna have a spike on its head, okay? Just coming up. And this is its forehead, and this is its nose, okay? And don't worry about all the other stuff for now. We're just gonna fill it all in. Don't worry about the mouth. Don't worry about any of that stuff. If you need to make your moon longer, you can make your moon longer, whatever you want to do. So now we have this big blob of a dragon on the moon. So we have to let the dragon dry. Dragon dry. And we're going to work on the actual moon part. So we're going to do some dry brushing. So it's really important that your brush is dry. So just make sure it's very dry. If you have another plate, I am kind of running out of room on that one. So I'm going to take some white. I'm just going to put it on my plate. And now we're going to dry brush. So it just means you don't have a lot of paint on that brush. Okay. Now you're going to go slow. Now anywhere, like there's going to be shadow under all these parts of the dragon. And that shadow is actually going to be this color that we have, the original color. So you want to have, I'm going to go kind of like, see how I'm going very, very slow, and I'm kind of, it's like powder. And I'm going to keep that shadow under there. I'm going to keep the shadow on the sides. I'm only highlighting the middle part. Okay, I'm going to keep it dark. This might get some this might take some getting used to, because you really aren't using a lot, okay? It's almost like chalky. And if you want to watch me do it first, and then you try, you can do that too. And so the first round, we're going to go lighter than that, but the first round, you really don't want it to be drastic, okay? And worst case scenario, you take this original color and, you know, make it dark again around the edges. So we're going to kind of take what that technique and do that to all these parts. But just so you can see, like I'm kind of dabbing. So I'm using a lighter color, and every time I go lighter, I go less. So I'm just making it a little bit brighter in the middle. Still gonna keep it darker on the edges here. Anywhere near the dragon or the edges of the moon. Okay. Do the same thing up here. So you're just gonna fade it in to the side. And then as you go towards where it's wrapping around, the tail's wrapping around, you want it darker in there. You can always go back with more white. And I'm making it very, I can see my brush strokes. I like the way that looks in the moon. It's kind of like the cheesiness of the moon. The cheese in the moon. As you can see, I'm going super slow. Just the way I do it, because I could always add more. I like to take my time. So like once I get to this point and I like it, I'm just gonna go back in the middle with some lighter white. But see how I'm keeping it darker on the edges. And it makes it like a glowing, kind of gives it a glow. Don't be upset if you can't get this right away. It definitely takes a few times doing it in practice. So then I'm taking pure white and going right down the middle. Lighter, less. I'm gonna go over here. It might be a little bit harder because it's a smaller spot. You can always switch to that smaller brush if you want. I also like to make my brush sharp by flattening it like that and then using it like a razor blade. So as I go in with my lightest color, that's what I'll do. If you want to get creative and use yellow or any color, you don't have to do what I'm doing. If you've painted with me a bunch of times, you probably want to venture out and do your own things, and I applaud that. So here's the biggest section here. Which is fun. And this is, so the dragon's gonna actually cast a shadow on the moon here. And so is this wing. So you want it to be the darkest under that wing and under the dragon's body. And you can dry brush a little bit on top of it, you know. Doesn't have to be your, you know, doesn't mean you don't have to, it's not that you can't, you know, you're not allowed to go over that section. It's just, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's doing this differently. It depends on how light your moon is. But generally you want the darkest part under the dragon's body there. I mean, I might be going so slow that I'm annoying people, but I don't obviously have commitment issues. I go super slow with the paint because I don't know, I just figure I can always add more. And I will go back over with the pure white again, one more round. Like I'll come back up here and kind of go right down the middle. And I love, because it's a moon, like I said before, I love the way brush strokes look. I love the texture of the moon. And again, you don't have to do that. If you want to make it sleek, slick, and whew, you can do that. It's totally up to you. If you want to go down this way, Woo! And have it slick and then kind of feather as you go out. You can do that. And if you know, when you get to the end and you are like, you feel like you've kind of lost that darkness in the shadow, you can just go in with the original color. And if you don't have the original color, just mix something. And I'll actually show you how to do that. Okay, now my leverage feels funny, so I'm gonna go like that. So we get to the dragon. All it really is taking darks and lights to create the illusion of 3 dimensions. That's all that you do. And I like to start with sort of like an in-between, and well, that's not true. I usually start the darkest and then go from the darkest to the lightest, but then at the end what I'll do is I'll add some even darker darks and some even lighter lights to kind of like top it off and make the contrast even more intense, just to kind of make things pop. But for generally speaking, I will do the darks first and then build up to the lights. All right. So see how it looks, it has this like really cool glow. Then when I'm done, I'll just kind of go down the middle. And again, I like mine a little brushier. That is just a style, so if you don't want it like that, you absolutely 100% don't have to do that. You can make it slick. Okay. All right, so what was our original? So, okay, so if you there's never a point where you can't go back to your original and say, oh, I kind of want to go back and make it bigger or something. You can go back and change it and make it bigger, you know? See how I just kind of went back to that gray? And then you can kind of work your way back in if you feel like you lost that that dark. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's so incredibly forgiving that look how sloppy I'm being. Watch. So I'm like, yep, right? I'm gonna just go straight to my white and they can merge them together. Really cool. And just play with it, and there's never a point, you know, where you should feel rushed, because, you know, the what's fun and soothing and therapeutic is these times where you can play, you know, just play around and, you know, pause me, play around. Only you know when you're done. And sometimes it's hard to tell. Clearly, as I keep going and going. But this is definitely like a fun part for me, is just playing around. All right. Enough of playing for me for now. So let's feel this. This looks pretty dry. So what we're gonna do, if you still have your purple pile, all we're gonna do is add some white to it, okay? Now we're not gonna jump, you know what? I'm not gonna ghost paint. I'm gonna take time to mix myself some more purple. So we're just gonna add some white to that. So we're not bouncing to the lightest highlight just yet, okay? We want to kind of work our way there. So you want to mix a lighter purple, but not necessarily the lightest purple, okay? So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take that lighter purple and we're just gonna make a line like that. All right, so I like to have both of my brushes on hand. So you can switch them when you want to switch them, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do that. And then, okay. Then what we're gonna do is we are going to kind of, again, dry brush some of this purple up into here. So you can go switch the direction of your brush if you want. But you want to just blend it all in, okay? For now. Okay. Now we are going to, so the highlight is going to be on the upper side here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that highlight and put it there. Don't worry if it's not a crazy contrast, okay, yet. We'll get there. Maybe make mine a little lighter so you can, I'm gonna make mine a tad lighter so you guys can see it better. And we're gonna do the same over here. The highlight's gonna be to the upper right. Try to keep it simple. And try to blend it with the existing dark color that you have. All right. So you're gonna go back to your original purple, if you have any. If you don't, like I don't, because I totally used mine up. Of course. I want you to, so we're gonna have the other wing in back of this wing. Now, we can use that dark purple because you can see the difference between the wing in the front and the wing in the back. All we're gonna do is make a parallel line like that. Okay, just so you could see it. All right, now we're gonna hop back onto that lighter purple that we were just using. And again, you can hop from this brush to this brush. All right, so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take this guy's head and we're just gonna now I'm gonna switch to this one. So see how I said that it was having like the top of it had this point here? So we're gonna continue that by giving it a couple different points. So I want him to have these, okay? Now we're gonna come in through the nose. Now we're gonna use that for the mouth. And I'm just gonna lightly paint all that in. That's my sugar glider yelling at me. I don't really think I'm being that loud. And for when you come to the bottom here, what I want you to do, this is a bit tricky. So we're gonna barely have any paint on the brush. And you're just gonna keep that dark, we're still gonna back over it with a darker color, but you barely wanna touch that bottom part. So you want it to stay dark down here and lighter up here. Okay, see how it fades into the darkness. All right, so for here now, we still want that shadow underneath this wing, okay? So this is the back, and of course we also want that shadow to stay underneath where the head is, okay? So what we're gonna do first is we are going to make where the back leg's gonna be. So all we're gonna do is make a half circle like that. And again, it's gonna be lighter here, and then it's gonna fade into the dark. And don't worry, we're gonna make things lighter and darker later, lighter and darker later. Okay, and it's gonna fade in. You can even keep a little spot under there so you can tell the difference between the wing and that. And then we have this kind of claw coming out like this. And again, we're going to keep the darkness to separate the thigh. Just going to come out with the light. Okay. And then we have a front paw. That's sort of just round, same way. We're gonna, same exact thing. We're gonna keep, it's like puzzle pieces. We want it darker here and darker to separate all the other body parts, okay? Same thing we did this. We're just gonna come down and we're gonna keep it dark under the neck. Keep it dark where there's a shadow on the bottom. Keep it dark between the wing and the body, and keep a little darkness between the legs, okay? This will be the most difficult thing out of everything we do. But once you get the concept, it's easy. Okay, so now you see now we're separating all the body parts, okay? So now this gets funner and funner as we go. Now we're gonna add even more white. So we're gonna do another step, okay? Now remember, lighter, less, okay? So I'm actually, let's see, I might keep on going with this brush. So we're gonna go back, okay? And we're gonna really bring out these wings. And you can even put, if you want to put some lighter parts in there, you could definitely feel free to use the tiny little brush. I'm being completely lazy. Okay, so now you have the wing is really coming out, and then I have a little bit of a highlight on the other wing. And you have a highlight on that guy. You have a highlight on that foot. You have a highlight on that arm, or whatever the heck it is. You have a highlight going back there. Okay? See how I'm putting less as I go? Here's where I'm going to switch to this tiny brush. So now I have this highlight on the top of its head. I have a highlight here, here. Same thing up here. Now we're not done with the highlights after this. We have one more. I like to really work up to it. All right. But while we have this out, what we're gonna do is take and you can, you know what, probably smaller brush is probably better. We're not gonna make another highlight yet. With the same highlight, we're going to make scales on this guy. I'm just using the shape of my brush. And of course, if you don't want to do this part, you absolutely don't have to do this part. And you can make the scales as big or small as you want. I'm basically just making dots all over this thing. Okay. With the same color here, I am going to just kind of put where the eye is going to be. Now I'm going to add a little more white to that pile. So now we want the lightest light purple. This is where I'm gonna, this is it for me. So I want this to be a little lighter here. I still have a little bit of a highlight over here. Now I think I'm going to switch to my little brush. Now you're going to have your biggest highlight here. Okay, and then I'm going to have one there, maybe a little bit on the nose. So I'm going to eventually put a nostril, but for now I'll just put like a little highlight where the nostril's going to be when we go back in with the darks. Now, here's where it's cool. You can go back and like kind of do your thing, and like if you want some texture in the wings, you can go back and put some texture in the wings. Whatever you want to do. If you could always go back if you want to take away texture in the wings, you can go back and take that away. But now's a good time to kind of mess around with that, like we did with the background. You can go as far into it as you want. All right, so now we have our sleeping dragon. And, oh, we didn't put the highlights on these guys up here. Where are the scales? What the? Sorry about that. All right. And what's fun is that once you kind of have the gist of what's going on and using darks and lights and all that stuff, you can go back and pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, I'm out of pretty much out of all this purple, but whatever. You can go back and, you know, if you want this to be lighter in here, if you want to go back and like make this a little bit lighter in here, you can go back and make, like, there's really no ending to what you can do, you know? It's pretty cool. So once you do all that, once you are done messing around, then we will go into the dark mode. So again, it's purple, and then instead of adding white, you're gonna add some black. So we're gonna get our deepest purple. Purple's pretty dark anyway on its own, but when you add black, it gets really dark. The reason why I don't use black is because it stands out way too much. So I'd rather I just mixed that without showing you. I'd rather you take some purple, which is super dark. See how dark that is? Get some black, add some black. So we're gonna make it really deep and dark, okay? Let's start off by doing the eye. So I, again, make this flat like that. Okay. Then I'm gonna come in here and do the nostril. And if you want, take this dark and just kind of give it, go into where there would be like darkness, like shadows. And you can kind of give it an extra bit of a pop. Like in here, think about, just be logical, kind of think about where there would be shadows. Up here, it would be like on the inner edge. Maybe on the inner edge of here. And you can go back and forth as much as you want. Like if you want to go back and add even more white, and you want even more of a highlight, you absolutely can. I mean, you can keep going and going and going and going. Actually, that's almost the same. Let me try to make it look. That's not much lighter. Here we go. So it depends on what you like. If you would like a lot of contrast, then you can do that. If you're fine without all that contrast, that's great too. but messing around with it is really fun. But once you start like adding these highlights, you gotta do it all over the place. All right, so once you're good, you're gonna take some black, that little brush, and I did just some claws. I just did claws of it, like on the hands here, just like they were kind of curled up. And if you are ready, you can put a little black in the eye, and the nostril, mouth. And then you're going to wash that off, dry it off, go to the white. And all I did here was I put some stars, and I did basically crisscrosses, like little shimmering stars. You don't need a lot of paint to do that. And it doesn't have to be even all the way around. You can make them all different. And you decide, you know, where you want them to go. But they definitely add a lot of interesting, you know, like it's almost like a dreamy, not that the dragon's not dreamy enough, but it definitely adds some magic. Right. I'm star crazy too. I'll just keep going. Maybe I just like magic. I don't know. Who doesn't like magic? Maybe one up here. So maybe do one up here. I'm talking to myself clearly. All right. I think that's enough magic. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing. I took a little bit of light purple and I just did some highlights on the claws. Okay, I'm really done now. No, wait, no, I'm not. Yes, I'm done. I'm putting my brush down and we're done. You can keep painting if you want. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and allow me to guide you on another artistic journey. So I hope you want to paint with me again, and good luck, and I'll see you soon. Bye.